Hi everyone! In today's installment of my Showing Up for Staff series, we're going to be talking about conflict, specifically conflict between staff and non-staff, where non-staff could be students, parents, families, or other people in the community. As a new school leader, navigating conflict can be very intimidating because we have to support staff without compromising students' best interest and family partnerships. And this can be difficult to manage. This series is really about how do we best support staff as leaders, and I've seen too many cases where leaders will automatically take the side of parents or students without fully examining the situation. And oftentimes this leaves staff with a short end of the stick and they don't feel supported. So today I want to share some practical tips on how you can navigate these types of conflict situations. I do want to clarify that I'm going to be covering more of the everyday cases, not necessarily the really extreme outlier conflict situations. The first tip is to constantly remind yourself that you and the staff member are a team. You are coworkers and you are colleagues, and that relationship needs to be prioritized and honored first. Ultimately, this just means don't take any external action without fully talking to the staff member about the situation first. Take the time to understand their situation, gather the relevant information, and ideally collaborate with the staff member on a solution together. So think of it this way. Imagine that the school is like a standard corporate business. Companies have projects and goals that they're working towards together. Whether launching a new product, offering a new service, or consulting for clients, there's always a clear distinction between the internal communications that are happening among a team versus the external communication with the public, customers, clients, or even partners. This internal-external distinction matters because these internal communications really help teams stay professional, organized, unified, and reliable to their clients. So let's say a client is unhappy with something and comes to the team leader to request changes. I would argue that it would be irresponsible for the team leader to just act on those changes without consulting and talking to the team first to see what's feasible or even what's reasonable. The same applies to schools. You really have to have those internal discussions with staff first before you take any external action. Tip 2 is that there's more solutions than you think. You don't have to get stuck in this trap of having to choose between the two sides. Let's look at a really reduced, stripped down example. The parent wants their child to retake an assessment, and the teacher doesn't usually allow for retakes. In this situation, it may look like there's really only two options, give the retest or not, but you can really expand the different solutions by taking a look at each person's core motivations. So when talking to the parents, you might find that their core motivation is that they want their child to have an A in the class, and currently they're at an 88%. When talking to the teacher, you find out that the student isn't regularly turning in assignments and therefore not practicing the material. The teacher really believes that the student can get an A in the class and has the ability and the knowledge to do it. However, because of the lack of practice, their natural ability is kind of hitting a wall and can only take them so far. In addition, the teacher is sharing that they really want the student to learn those soft skills so that way they can have those skills and be successful in future classes as they get older. Then you might have a conversation with the student and find out that they really don't care about their grade and they're very happy with a B and don't feel the need to push for an A. All of these motivations and situations aren't necessarily in opposition. Now, understanding all of these motivations, you can then go back with staff and have a conversation about what are some different options we can come up with together to present to the parent that can satisfy the teacher's goals, the parent's goals, and the student's needs. As an example of a solution, it could be that maybe this assessment is not going to be that big of an impact on their grade, and so they have plenty of time left in the semester to increase it up to an A. For the next unit, if the student can demonstrate the soft skill of turning in all of their assignments, then if they aren't happy with their grade or the grade doesn't bump it up to an A, at that point they would be eligible for a retake. So you can see with this solution, there's a mix of how to address the teacher's goals as well as the parent desires. So going back to the business example, these are the type of conversations you want to have internally with your team and with staff to create those reasonable and feasible solutions that you can then present to the external client. The third tip is to have a unified front. So once you've had those internal discussions with staff and you know your game plan, when you move into those external meetings, it's so important for you both to be on the same page. And what I mean by being on the same page is less about the actual solutions and more about the demeanor in which you're going into the conversation. Both you and the staff member are on a team that is supporting the student. So whether you're both talking to a student, to families, or to other people in the community, the message should be aligned that we're here to cooperatively come up with a solution. We value what you're saying, and we took the situation very seriously by actually taking the time to come up with different ideas and solutions to make sure that the situation can really be resolved. To take it further, in these everyday situations, it's so important for staff to maintain a positive relationship with students and families. Honestly, as a leader, I would rather be the one that faces any potential displeasure or frustration from the non-staff member, because staff is going to interact with students and families daily and way more frequently than I will. So their relationship, if it can be protected to be as positive as possible, is going to be what's best for the student in the long run. If there are any internal disagreements with staff, or maybe things could have been handled better, I recommend that you have those conversations behind closed doors. Going back to the business example, if a client is seeing disagreement between a team and a team leader, it's going to leave the client feeling a sense of distrust and can distract from the ultimate goal of trying to find a supportive and sustainable solution moving forward. Tip 4 is to assess the current systems. After resolving the conflict, take a look to see if this situation is something that is an outlier or part of a repeated pattern. Repeated cases can indicate a systemic issue, whether that's a repeated case within one person or a similar case that many people are experiencing. For example, staff may encounter a lot of parent pushback on a school policy if it wasn't communicated properly, or staff might become frustrated with student behavior when the implementation of consequences and messaging are inconsistent. So as you come across conflict, you want to take a look at that conflict and see, is it part of a bigger issue? And is there any systemic changes that can be addressed to further proactively foster a positive relationship between staff and non-staff? So those are my 4 tips on how to navigate staff versus non-staff conflict as a new school leader. Remember, prioritizing and showing up for staff does not mean that you're compromising students' best interests in any way. If anything, when you're supporting staff well, you're actually creating a better and stronger environment for students to succeed. I hope this helps, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you experience the joy of doing something you love today.